Hello and welcome to I Talk to Ghosts, the podcast that delivers chills, heart-stopping spookiness, and the occasional shudder of unease. Ask your doctor if I Talk to Ghosts is right for you. I'm your spirited host, Jennifer, a professional medium and a gatherer of ghost stories. And tonight's theme, you may have guessed, is haunted hospitals. I have found some chilling tales that are the perfect prescription for a spooky evening. I also have a new spirit reading to share with you with my podcast guest of the week. And are you interested in being a guest yourself for a free medium session? I'll tell you how to sign up in a little bit. But the spirits might be here for you already. Join me around the seance table as I call a departed loved one close, right here on the podcast. I dedicate these sessions to be connected to my listeners, and it works. So please see if tonight's message from the spirits is for you. But for now, the spooky, the haunted hospitals are opening their doors for you right now. In early 2015, I was working in a small, rural hospital. The hospital had a wing for regular patients and a wing for prisoners who would be brought in from the prison that was located in town. The hospital prison wing would only be opened and used if there were 5 or more prisoners admitted. I worked the night shift from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Because this was a small town hospital, you didn't see a lot of people walking around during the night, as you may see in larger, busier hospitals. There had been times when I had to run to the prisoner wing alone to get some supplies or medications, and the first few times I did, I was super creeped out. There's something about the air and the feeling in there that would freak me out. I got the feeling like I was being watched. I would hurry so I could get in and out as soon as possible. After the first few times of going in there alone, I always made someone come with me. One night, while walking to the lab alone, I passed the prisoner wing entrance, which was dark and empty. You could always feel a creepy feeling in and near there. No big deal, just walk fast and get past it quickly. So on my way back to my unit from the lab, again, I passed by the entrance to the prisoner wing. This time, as I passed it, I heard someone whistling a song in there. I slowed down and did a quick 2-second peek in through the door. It was dark and empty. No staff in there. Who would be in there, in the dark, whistling? I know who. No one. So I quickly ran back to my unit and told a couple of my coworkers, who believed me but hadn't experienced anything for themselves in there. Fast forward a couple of months. It was a quiet night, and the patients were placed in rooms towards the front of my unit, close to where the entrance is. Most of the staff stayed at the nurses' station in the front. One of my CNAs, who was assigned to my patients, ended up sitting in the back of the nurses' station because she needed a computer to chart on. I went to the back where she was sitting, and I was standing on the outside corner so I could face her directly and speak to her. As I was standing there talking to her, I looked over her head at the empty patient rooms behind her. As I was talking to her, I had to stop, and I'm pretty sure I stopped mid-sentence and my mouth stayed open. I saw a man with a patient gown, walking from one side of the empty room to the other, and I knew that those rooms were all empty. The CNA, watching my face, started loudly saying, What's going on?" And she jumped up thinking someone was behind her. I told her not so calmly that I saw a man in room 113. I went to tell the other nurses. They checked to see if a patient had died in that room, and of course someone had. My sighting was the topic of the night since it amped us all up. A few hours later, the house cleaning lady came into the unit to clean and overheard us talking about the apparition I saw. She wanted to share her story and started telling us what her experiences were when she cleaned the prison wing. She told us that when she cleans in the prison area by herself, she will hear someone whistling. I had heard the whistling coming from there a few months ago. This completely validated my experience. When I first started, there was one particular room that was up front by the nurses' station that would catch my eye. There were times that I would be charting at one of the computers that faced that room, and out of the corner of my eye, I would see what looked like a man standing at the doorway. But when I would fully look, he would be gone. I mentioned it to one of the nurses who had worked there for a while, and she told me that a man had recently passed away in that room. After the first year working at the local hospital in radiology, I began to hear stories about a ghost in the basement file room. Every hospital has file rooms where the older patient film cases are stored before they leave the facility to go to a special warehouse. Back then, I would, quite frequently, go down to the basement to pull basket loads of film folders for patients to pick up for upcoming appointments, surgery cases, or doctor's case presentations. One night, I was in the basement room pulling a lot of files for an upcoming presentation. I was busy filling a bin when I heard a slight noise over by the desk area. I was right in the line of a workstation where I could see the tall office chair and the computer. I heard the office chair squeak like someone just moved it or turned it around. Out of the corner of my eye, I could clearly see a man about 5'8", dark hair, well-dressed with dark pants, wearing a long lab coat with a stethoscope draped around his neck and his hand on the back of the office chair. I turned to face him to ask him if I could help him. Just as I faced him straight on, he disappeared right in front of me, leaving the chair he had his hand on twirling around. I stood there blinking and trying to rationalize what had just happened. I recalled the story the other girls in the office had told me. I hadn't taken them too seriously at the time. I finished the work I was doing as quickly as I could. When I got back upstairs to the office, it must have shown on my face. One of my coworkers noticed right away. She came up alongside me and whispered, "Did you meet the doctor?" I nodded my head in confirmation. I wanted to know if they knew who he was. My coworker shrugged. They didn't really know, but that he must have been a previous doctor that possibly worked there many years ago. This happened to me about 2 years ago. My husband and I moved into an apartment, and this apartment is unusual, to say the least. It's an old hospital that was closed down for years, and now it's converted into apartments. My husband, my 2 kids, and I were sitting home one evening watching TV. All the lights were off except for the kitchen light. Everyone was relaxing on the couch or sitting on the floor, enjoying the movie. But I just couldn't relax. I kept feeling like something was about to happen, and I was pretty sure it wasn't going to be good. It felt like my heart was going to explode. It was like the weight of the world was on me. I looked around the room and didn't notice anything odd. That was until I looked at the kitchen entryway. I froze and couldn't speak as I saw a very large, dark mass pass by the entryway. It was so big and so dark that it blocked out the light of the kitchen for a short time. Finally, it disappeared and the feeling left me. I got out of my seat and looked into the kitchen. Of course, nothing was there. That night, it was hard for me to sleep. The next morning, we woke up and walked out into the living room. My candlestick holders that I keep on my entertainment center were sitting perfectly on the floor in front of the TV, like someone or something had placed them there. That afternoon, I contacted my landlord. I asked him what was the floor I'm staying on when it was a hospital. He told me it was the critical care unit. So to me, that told me right away that I may be dealing with someone who had passed away when it had been a hospital. Do you have a personal ghost story you would like to tell me? I may share it on the podcast. Email me at speaknow@italktoghosts.com. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. My guest this evening is Sarah. Sarah, welcome to the podcast and your reading. How are you doing tonight?
Hello, I am so excited. I've thought of this from the moment I signed up. I'm just very excited.
I'm excited too. And you know what? It's no exaggeration. The spirits around you are excited too.
Oh,
and I just love that. And I felt that before we even got on the call. It's not lip service. It's true. So let's dive into it. First person who is coming through for me feels like a father-grandfather type. Did you lose your dad?
No, grandparents who are very, very important. I will try not to cry through this whole thing so that you can understand me.
No, you feel what you need to feel. That's what we're here for.
I lost both of my grandfathers, and they both played very fatherly roles in my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That makes sense. And because the energy, it comes through the same sometimes. And it's like, and who are we to even label? I think, but so I completely respect that. Grandfather who was coming through, he was smart, understood many concepts, also kind of felt like a gentleman. I had a gentleman way about him. Let me check in with you there. Is this feeling right?
I mean, yes, I would say both were smart and all of that, but one was definitely an academic.
Okay.
Through his core.
Okay. Yeah. Like to see the patterns in things. Just
okay. Can you tell me more about that?
I could see him watching trains, or schedules.
God. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Like literally watching trains. Very I can't think of the right word, but like everything in its place,
Uh-huh.
very organized. When he passed, we found journals of his accounts, like bank accounts. Even though it became online, he still kept it pen and paper, just like
Yeah.
very fastidious was the word I
Yes.
was thinking.
Well, I could really love to see how things worked, how things came together,
Yeah.
and the moving parts of everything. The type of thing that would make my brain shut off, I
Sure.
think.
Yeah.
But yeah, the watching trains, it was like, use that example. I'm like, okay, I'll definitely do that.
So the last 10 years of his life, he lived next to the train tracks.
Okay.
So there you go. Yeah.
Let me tell you, he is definitely with you. He is definitely with you. Other things that were coming through. I'm going to get into some specifics, and it may or may not relate to him.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was him. It was either him or your other grandfather. They were showing me a hole in his sock. And the feeling behind that was security and stability was important.
For sure.
And it was important to him that his family was stable and sound. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Again, it can go for both, but the one we're speaking on was he made $1 last forever. Was very concerned with leaving his children money when he didn't need to. So yeah, that was super important to him. Yeah.
Sure. And from talking about stability, he was talking about skill development being important in life. Does that make sense?
Skill development. I mean, that would actually be my other grandfather.
Okay. Maybe he was chiming in, but what about the skill development?
Yeah, he used to tell me he started off barely a high school graduate and ended up a vice president of his division in his company. And he would always say his goal in life was like to get to the next level. And so his career started working in a gas station. And then to end up where he was just like, how do I level up? How do I level up?
I saw not a measuring tape, but the type of old-fashioned ruler where it kind of can fold in on itself or something like that. And I know there's another type of ruler that you can kind of pull it out a little bit and make it bigger.
The original grandfather we were talking about was a literal carpenter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe he's like, no, we're still talking about me. Leave
They're
the other one alone. Like, we're still talking about me.
Yeah. It's like, okay, there's plenty of time for both.
Yeah. But no, yeah, the original one, he, by trade, not by profession necessarily, but by trade and passion, was a carpenter. Built things with wood for everybody.
The other thing that was coming in when you were talking was him wanting to offer that it's important to rest and self-care as well. And I'm not sure if he understood that message completely, finding that balance, but he doesn't want to just give the message of work as hard as you can until you run yourself into the ground. Because he's like, wait a second, self-care and pausing to enjoy what you have. That's what he's saying. You got to enjoy what you have, because otherwise, why did you work to have it?
Yeah. That matches.
Did anyone suffer from heartburn? I was feeling uncharacteristic heartburn before the reading tonight.
I'm pretty sure my father's father would have probably dealt with heartburn frequently.
Okay.
The joke is that he lived off of scotch and Imodium. And I know he was popping Tums like all day. So, and candy bars, like there's no way this man did not have heartburn. So that makes sense for him for sure. I'm sure. In fact, Tums used to come in a roll. I'm just remembering this. Like now they come in a canister. He had a roll of Tums in his shirt pocket. Like I can remember that. So yeah, the man was popping Tums.
And okay, another random thing that I was shown was bread. I was seeing like not like loaves or sliced bread. It was more like domed dinner rolls or biscuits and just a whole bunch. And then I kind of heard that's too much bread. Or so I'm just wondering if you have a bread story or can connect that dinner roll biscuit thing.
So the same grandfather was in the Merchant Marines during World War II, and he was a baker on the ship. That was his job. And I don't know about too much bread, but he like kind of wouldn't talk about the war much, but his joke was about the Battle of the Biscuits. That's what he called it. And I'm pretty sure he had like burned all the biscuits, but that was his joke. Like, yeah, I was in the Battle of the Biscuits. And I mean, so that fits pretty well with him as well.
And that's like just a great example of sense of humor too, right?
Absolutely. His wit. Absolutely.
A few other things that were coming up. I was being shown a little bit of like an overgrown field, not like something super tall, maybe 1.5 feet. And it seemed like a hot summer.
The first thing that comes to mind is that I have a painting that belonged to my grandparents that is like a Texas summer. It's like bluebonnet field with a tree, and it hung in their house my whole life. And then when they passed, I asked my dad if I could have it, and so now I have it.
Wonderful.
So that's what came to mind is like, yeah, that fits.
I do think that tracks, but you could also feel the heat. You know what I mean? So there's like multiple things going on there. They lived in a hot climate. Did you say something about Texas?
Yeah, both of my grandparents were born in Texas.
Okay. A couple other little things that came up. There was a couple different things coming through with this. A fish dinner, someone not liking fish, and then someone else. I'm wondering if they ate sardines.
Oh. My father loves sardines, and I can only imagine that was a topic of conversation. My dad lived with his parents, so a lot of my memories are grandparents and dad together.
Okay.
And I think he probably still eats sardines.
It seems very polarizing.
Yeah, maybe somebody didn't appreciate it.
Right.
Either my grandmother or my grandfather being like, that's gross.
They're bringing, and that's like the specific detail that like I can't track it, but you can. And that acknowledgement there, that teeny little detail,
Again, that's homework. Like, who was it Nana or Papa Bill who did not appreciate you eating sardines in their house? Like, I can only imagine one or both of them thinking that was not necessary.
Now, your grandma was coming through, but she's being rather quiet.
Well, tell her to knock it off, because I would like to talk to her.
I feel like the grandpas are like, they're very talkative, but I can tell she's there. Let's see. Does she have a playful side to her?
Yeah.
I see her kind of just a little jovial about things, a little whimsical kind of.
She told me every day you should stand on one foot and go, ta-da. Does that match? So I can picture like driving out of the driveway and her standing in the garage going, ta-da.
That is so lovely. Yeah. And a little inventive with things. I wouldn't be surprised if she could take something and use it for something completely unrelated or goofy even, for the joke of it, but also in a really smart kind of way. She's not showing me anything specific, but just, here, I'll just use this instead, type of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, again, it's so hard because both grandmothers, I think, could fit that. But the one we were talking about, very kind of typical homemaker. Like her life was spent caring for her kids and her husband. And so that would make sense that like she would just make it work.
Okay, let's hear from other grandma. Did either of them do any gardening at all or grow their own vegetables?
Yeah.
Because I was seeing like snap peas.
Oh my God. You're going to make me lose it. So connected to snap peas that during my brother's eulogy about my grandmother, he reminisced about how we would sit on the back porch and that was grandma's thing. Come sit with me and snap peas. Like that. I mean, that's so specific to her.
Just to explain my process a little bit, sometimes I'm shown them visually, in my mind's eye. And yeah, that act of snapping them. And I wrote down sweet peas, and she said, no, snap peas.
Oh my God. Right. Sweet peas isn't the same thing. No, we sit and we snap the peas together.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Jennifer, I'm going to tell everybody about that detail. That's crazy.
I don't know where this fits in your family. There was a little bit of mention of don't focus on what you don't have. I wonder if there's some kind of clashing in there about mindsets.
It's interesting. My husband reminds me very much of one of my grandfathers in that he's very a go-getter and kind of it's never enough. And in the one way that's made us successful and secure and given him a lot of success. But this flip side of that is it's never enough. And so there is a sense of like balancing those two energies. And that was very much my paternal grandfather. And I see the same things in my husband as well.
There's definitely a little bit of a theme going on about make sure to rest, make sure to recoup, regenerate, meditate. You got to get that rest in. And I really loved that message of you have to enjoy what you worked for, or otherwise.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, is that kind of like a post-life reflection? Like now that I see everything.
Yeah. And how important it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my understanding that we really retain a sense of self, but so much of our worries or focus or things that bothered us or anything like that, they kind of fall away and we gain this insight and whatever those loved ones who are connected to us can do to pass along that knowledge, they love to do so. But they do have to present themselves how they were in life, because otherwise, how would we recognize them?
Sure.
Yeah.
I would love to know, like, if they're ever kind of, I don't know, sending signs, giving reassurances.
You know what I'm seeing with that? I'm seeing some flickering light, like sunlight. Like it would look like that type of thing.
Really?
Does that make sense at all?
It does. Weirdly. I would say about a week ago when we have like canister lights and one of the lights just like they're fluorescent and one randomly became yellow and was flickering.
Oh my goodness.
And we had to turn off the lights like 3 times to get it back to being with the rest of it. So am I allowed to swear? That's being insane. That's insane. Because of course we're like, oh, it's some weird electrical thing. And I turned the light off and I turned it back on and it was still doing it. I'm looking at my husband like, that's so weird. Why would it suddenly do that? It's like, I don't know, try it again. And then it went away. But literally the white fluorescence, this one canister turned to yellow, like a sunlight.
Flickering.
I mean, that's wild. Come on, Jennifer. That's wild.
I have bugged your house.
Wow.
I really get the sense that your energy blends with theirs very well. And that if you are open to it, and I really do think you are, talk to them,
Yeah, I do.
They are still with you and they will talk back and they can blend with your emotions. They can blend with your thoughts and they're always with us. They're always with us. And it's grand and comforting. And I have a hard time conveying the enormity of it. but they're
I'm
definitely
sure.
with you. And it's very special. It's very special. I do have some messages for you
Wonderful.
from the lot of them.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, I wrote down they. They see the challenges you fought through, and they are proud of you. Okay. You turn it into something beautiful. And they say, let your passionate heart lead you to your goals. Keep the analytical mind out of it. Your heart knows what it's doing.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me today. This has been lovely and unique and magical.
Yes, absolutely.
Before we go, do you have a personal ghost story that you would like to share?
Yes.
Listener ghost story.
I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. When I was pregnant with the 4-year-old, I would frequently think, so they're 3 years apart. So like I had a little toddler at the time. I would frequently think he was at my side, and I turn and there's nobody there. And I'm like, okay, that's very strange. Sometimes I would think it was our dog in the kitchen with me. It was always in the kitchen in our previous house, and I would turn and nobody's there. And I would sometimes even feel like somebody touching my leg, like if it was a child coming to touch my leg. And
Wow.
I started thinking this was a ghost. This was a spirit, and it was very comforting. Like it was very like, it's supposed to be here. It's in the house. It belongs here. And then I went to hug my husband one time, and I thought I saw like the top of a child's head, and to the point where I'm like, who is that? And nobody's there. Now, after I had my son, it never happened again. That was it. I don't know if it was like a protective spirit during my pregnancy. I mean, I don't know what it was, but it happened often enough that I started to be like, okay, what is going on? Who is here? Tried to do a little research, but like could never connect it to the house or anything. But yeah, that's my personal ghost story.
Wow. You were in that house when your son was born.
Yes.
And it stopped happening.
Yes.
This could have been a spirit that was drawn towards you as a mother and the energy you got going on in your body. Have you compared the energy of that spirit with the energy of your son? Could it have been your son?
The one who I was pregnant with?
Yes.
That's interesting. I mean, in the sense of the child is my shadow, sure. Like I can't go anywhere without him wanting to be by my side. Like I told you, I thought he was going to bust in here during this.
Sure. Like what's going on?
Yeah, in that sense, it's very familiar.
Fascinating story. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to think on this for weeks.
Would you like a free spirit reading with me and record your reading for the podcast? Sign up for your chance to be selected by visiting italktoghosts.com/guest. And as an added bonus, if you don't want to leave your reading up to chance, I'll let you in on a secret. There's a discount offer to book a private session with me, so you can book a date and time for certain. Visit italktoghosts.com/guest for more details. I can't wait to meet you. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. I have a message from the spirits this evening, so thank you for joining me around my seance table. Tonight, I have someone coming in super quick for me. He's showing me that he was your brother and that he passed away from leukemia, either when he was in college or you were in college, or maybe both. And he says that you guys didn't always get along. He's admitting he was headstrong and kind of stubborn just in personality, but of course you loved each other. And he sees that you grieve his loss because your relationship wasn't perfect, that it should have been better, and you criticize yourself for that a little bit. And he really wants to alleviate that. Do not feel bad that he got sick and moved on. It's okay that your relationship wasn't perfect, and you can still be close to him now. Absolutely. He sees you, and he's proud of you, and he's proud of your life and your family and the life you've built for yourself. Again, he doesn't want you to hold on to that self-criticism when you think of him, of how your relationship could have been better, because it's okay. It's absolutely okay. His message for you this evening is, he says, don't worry, just do. Things don't have to be perfect. If you can kind of let go of that sense of needing to control things in order for them to work out, and he really wishes for you that you can kind of let go and enjoy and be okay with that, because he thinks you'll enjoy things more that way. And yeah, he thinks maybe this would start another argument, but he sees that your sense of needing to control things creates conflict and arguments in your life now. And he's saying, lighten up, sis, lighten up. So if that makes you angry, I'm so sorry. Hopefully you can take that message as intended, that he loves you, and with that love, he wants you to be happy. He really does. I think I'm going to leave it at that. If this message connects for you, please reach out. I would love to know, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about it. Yeah. Thank you. Before we part ways into the shadows this evening, I would love to give a spooky shout out to my Patreon supporters. A big spooky thank you to Charles and family, Peter, Raven and Jenna, Jennifer C., Jennifer A., James, Stephen, Gabe, Daniel, Rob, and Gordon. Thank you so much. And if you're a spooky fan of the podcast, head on over to patreon.com/italktoghosts for some spooky perks and to support the podcast. Thank you so much. And with that, dear listener, we've reached the end of this episode of I Talk to Ghosts. I hope you've enjoyed the spirit work that I shared with you this evening, as well as the tales of haunted hospitals. Have you had a paranormal experience in a hospital? I would love to hear about it. In the meantime, wherever you wander off to in this world or the next, just remember, come back and visit with me. Have a lovely evening and good night.